What if everything we thought we knew about history was just the tip of the iceberg? Beneath layers of dust and time, the Earth hides secrets that shatter our understanding of the past, puzzles so perplexing that even the brightest archaeologists can only stare in wonder. Picture this, a world where ancient civilizations left behind clues too advanced for their time, where artifacts defy explanation, and where every dig site might rewrite the textbooks. That's the thrill of archaeology. It's not just about uncovering the past, but stumbling upon mysteries that leave us questioning what's possible. From massive stone structures aligned with celestial precision to bizarre relics that seem out of place by thousands of years, the deeper we dig, the more questions we find. Some discoveries are so baffling they've sparked debates lasting decades, while others hint at lost technologies or forgotten cultures that rival our own. Imagine holding an object in your hands with no logical origin, or standing in the shadow of a monument built with methods we still can't replicate today. These aren't plot twists from a fantasy novel, they're real, tangible enigmas waiting in the soil, daring us to solve them. Today, we're diving into 25 of the most mind-bending archaeological finds ever uncovered, each one a piece of a global jigsaw that refuses to fit together neatly. Some will make you question the timelines we've been taught, while others suggest connections between civilizations separated by oceans and centuries. Why did ancient builders leave behind blueprints we're only now beginning to decipher? Who or what created artifacts that defy the technology of their era? Every discovery we'll explore today is a reminder that history isn't set in stone. It's a living, breathing mystery with secrets still whispering to us across the ages. So let's start digging, because the truth might be stranger than anything we've imagined. The first discovery on our list is so advanced it feels like it was dropped into the ancient world by time travelers. In 1901, sponge divers exploring a Roman shipwreck near the Greek island of Antikythera stumbled upon a corroded lump of bronze and wood. At first glance, it seemed unremarkable, just another artifact among statues and pottery. But decades later, when scientists finally peered inside using advanced imaging techniques, they uncovered a mechanical marvel that rewrote history. This was the Antikythera Mechanism, a 2,000-year-old device with interlocking gears so precise it could track the movements of the sun, moon, and planets with staggering accuracy. Think of it as the world's first analog computer, centuries ahead of anything else from its era. What makes this artifact truly baffling is the sheer sophistication of its design. Tiny gear teeth, each carefully calculated, modeled lunar cycles and even predicted eclipses. It featured dials that acted as an ancient calendar, tracking upcoming Olympic Games and celestial events like a cosmic alarm clock. But here's the mystery: how did this technology vanish for over 1,000 years? Similar mechanical complexity wouldn't reappear until the rise of medieval clockwork in Europe. Some scholars believe it was crafted by followers of the legendary inventor Archimedes, while others speculate it came from a lost school of engineering whose secrets died with its creators. Even more puzzling is why such a revolutionary device ended up on a sinking cargo ship. Was it a luxury item for a wealthy collector or part of a scholar's traveling toolkit? The wreck's location suggests it was en route to Rome, perhaps as spoils of war after Greece fell to the empire. But if this mechanism was just one of many, where are the others? Its solitary existence hints at a forgotten golden age of technology, leaving us to wonder what other inventions were lost to time. Today, researchers continue decoding inscriptions on its fragments, uncovering new functions that prove the ancients knew far more about the cosmos than we ever imagined. The Antikythera Mechanism doesn't just challenge our timeline of human innovation, it dares us to reconsider what else might be hiding in the dust of history. Now imagine holding a book that no one on Earth can read, a dense 200-page mystery written in symbols that have defied every codebreaker, linguist, and algorithm for over 6 centuries. That's the Voynich Manuscript, a handwritten tome so perplexing it's been called the world's most unreadable book. Discovered in 1912 by rare book dealer Wilfred Voynich, this enigmatic volume bursts with bizarre illustrations, naked women bathing in emerald green pools, unidentifiable plants that seem plucked from a fever dream, and celestial charts that map no known sky. But the real puzzle lies in its text, a flowing, alien script with no clear connection to any language, ancient or modern. Carbon dating places its vellum pages between 1404 and 1438, yet its contents remain utterly indecipherable. Theories about its origins range from the scholarly to the fantastical. Some experts believe it's an elaborate medieval hoax crafted to dupe a wealthy patron with fake alchemical secrets. Others argue it's a coded herbalist manual, its strange plants possibly representing lost medicinal knowledge. Then there are the wilder speculations that it's a relic from Atlantis, an extraterrestrial message, or even a glossolalia-fueled divine revelation. Over the years, everyone from World War II codebreakers to modern AI systems have tried cracking its script, but all attempts collapse into contradictions. Even the manuscript's few recognizable elements deepen the mystery. Its zodiac illustrations include a Taurus bull frolicking in what looks like a swimming pool, while its pharmaceutical section shows roots and leaves arranged like ingredients in a witch's brew. What makes the Voynich manuscript uniquely frustrating is how almost decipherable it feels. Words repeat in patterns that suggest grammar, and its illustrations imply practical categories, astronomy, botany, even recipes. In 2019, a University of Bristol researcher claimed it was a lost Proto-Romance language, only for linguists to dismantle the theory months later. Then in 2021, an artificial intelligence study proposed it was encoded Hebrew, but the translation yielded gibberish. Each failed effort adds to the allure, proving that some secrets refuse to surrender even to 21st century technology. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't just what it says, but why someone went to such lengths to conceal it. Was it meant to protect dangerous knowledge like heretical science or forbidden medicine? Or is it the work of a lone genius whose private cipher died with them? Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism, which showcases lost technology, the Voynich manuscript represents lost meaning, a reminder that the past can hide in plain sight. Today, it sits in Yale University's Voynich Library, whispering to every researcher who dares to look, "Turn my pages, solve me if you can." High above the barren plains of southern Peru, a sprawling network of ancient artwork stretches across the desert like a giant sketchbook, the Nazca Lines. These enormous geoglyphs, some stretching over 600 feet long, depict everything from hummingbirds and monkeys to geometric shapes so precise they seem drawn with celestial rulers. But here's what stumps researchers. These masterpieces are virtually invisible from the ground, carved between 200 BC and 600 AD by removing rust-colored pebbles to reveal lighter earth beneath. The lines were designed to be seen from the skies centuries before human flight existed. So why would a culture with no balloons, no drones, no aircraft create art they could never fully appreciate? Some scholars believe the Nazca people used simple surveying tools and ropes to plot the designs, aligning them with solstice sunrises or constellations as part of ritual pathways for ceremonial processions. Walk along certain lines and you'll find pottery shards and offerings hinting at spiritual journeys. But others propose even wilder theories. The straight, mile-long runways and strange humanoid figures, one nicknamed the astronaut, fueled speculation about ancient alien visitors, though most archaeologists dismiss this as pseudoscience. The real magic lies in the line's endurance. Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism or Voynich manuscript, these glyphs weren't hidden. They survived because the Nazca Desert's windless, rainless climate acts like a natural museum. Yet their purpose remains as elusive as ever. Were they prayers to gods, maps of underground water, or cosmic calendars tracking celestial events? Modern technology has revealed hundreds more lines and figures using drones and satellite imagery, but each discovery deepens the riddle. One thing's certain, the Nazca Lines are a testament to human ingenuity and a humbling reminder that even our most visible monuments can guard their secrets in plain sight. Now shift your gaze from Peru's desert to the jungles of Cambodia, where another enigma hides in the ruins of Angkor Wat. Aerial scans recently uncovered a vast, grid-like city surrounding the temple complex, one that matches descriptions from ancient texts but had been swallowed by the forest. This lost metropolis, called Mahendraparvata, was part of the Khmer Empire's sprawling network, yet its sudden abandonment parallels the Nazca's mysterious decline. Both cultures left behind colossal artworks tied to the stars. Both vanished under circumstances we're still piecing together. Coincidence or proof that ancient civilizations shared a fascination with the skies, and perhaps a fate we've yet to understand. Buried beneath the sands of Iraq lies an object so shockingly ahead of its time that historians still argue over its purpose. Known as the Baghdad Battery, this unassuming clay jar, roughly the size of a fist, dates back to the Parthian period around 200 BC to 200 AD. Inside, archaeologists found a copper cylinder housing an iron rod, all sealed with an asphalt plug. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than an ancient storage vessel. But when filled with vinegar or grape juice, this simple setup produces something extraordinary: electricity. Yes, you heard that right. This 2,000-year-old artifact might just be the world's first battery. The theory goes that these jars could generate about 1 volt of power, enough for subtle electrochemical reactions. Some researchers suggest they were used for gilding, electroplating gold onto silver objects to create dazzling ornaments. Imagine artisans dipping a necklace into a solution, using the battery to bond gold particles onto its surface. It's a tantalizing idea, especially since similar techniques weren't officially documented until the 19th century. But not everyone's convinced. Skeptics argue the jars might have held sacred scrolls or simply stored perishables, their metal components merely reinforcing the structure. After all, no wires or connected devices have ever been found alongside them. What makes this debate so fascinating is the sheer possibility. If these were batteries, how widespread was their use? Were they a forgotten innovation or part of a larger technological tradition lost to time? The lack of corrosion on the iron rods hints at electrochemical activity, while traces of acidic residue inside some jars lend credence to the theory. Yet without clearer evidence of their application, the Baghdad Battery remains a tantalizing what if. Think about the implications: a civilization tinkering with electricity centuries before Galvani's frogs or Volta's piles. It challenges the linear narrative of scientific progress, suggesting flashes of brilliance might have flickered in the ancient world, only to be snuffed out by time. Whether they powered temple miracles or just held pickled dates, these jars remind us that history's quietest artifacts can spark the loudest debates. Now, let's journey from the Middle East to the icy cliffs of Norway, where another mystery hides in plain sight: the Viking Ulfbert swords. Forged between 900 and 1000 AD, these weapons were so advanced they seemed supernatural to medieval warriors. Their blades, made from crucible steel with almost no impurities, bent without breaking and sliced through lesser swords like butter. But here's the puzzle: this purity of metal wasn't achievable in Europe until the Industrial Revolution, 800 years later. So how did Viking smiths create what modern metallurgists call a perfect steel? The secret might lie in trade routes stretching all the way to Persia, where high-carbon steel was already being produced. Some Ulfbert swords bear the inscription +VLF Bur +T, suggesting a single workshop or lineage of master smiths guarded this knowledge like a state secret. Yet no crucible steel furnaces have ever been found in Viking lands. Did they import raw ingots, or was the technique lost in some dark age of forgotten craftsmanship? Like the Baghdad Battery, the Ulfbert swords blur the line between myth and innovation. They force us to ask how many other breakthroughs from the ancient world faded away before they could change history. Scattered across the jungles and river deltas of Costa Rica, hundreds of stone spheres lie hidden, some as small as a basketball, others towering taller than a person and weighing up to 16 tons. Carved with near-perfect precision, these orbs are so flawlessly round that modern engineers using laser tools struggle to explain how ancient artisans achieved such geometrical perfection. Known locally as Los Bolas, these mysterious spheres date back to the Dickwes culture between 600 and 1500 AD, yet their true purpose remains one of archaeology's most tantalizing riddles. The craftsmanship alone is staggering. Made from gabbro, a tough volcanic rock, each sphere was painstakingly shaped using stone tools, no small feat when you consider that even a millimeter of error would disrupt their symmetry. Some theorists suggest the builders may have used heated pebbles to fracture the rock before polishing it for months, possibly rolling the spheres on logs to test their balance. But why dedicate such labor to creating objects with no obvious practical use? One clue might lie in their placement. Many spheres were found arranged in clusters, lines, or even triangular formations, often near burial sites or ceremonial centers. This has led researchers to propose they served as celestial markers, their alignments mapping solstices or planetary movements like a Stone Age observatory. Then there are the wilder theories. Local legends claim the spheres were relics from Atlantis, crafted by a lost civilization with advanced technology. Others suggest they were navigational aids for extraterrestrial visitors, or even containers holding some long-vanished energy source. While these ideas belong more to science fiction than archaeology, they underscore how thoroughly these objects defy conventional explanation. Even their dispersion adds to the puzzle. Originally found in the hundreds, many spheres were dynamited in the 1930s by treasure hunters convinced they held gold inside, while others were hauled away as garden ornaments. Today, less than 50 remain in their original locations, their original configurations lost forever. What makes the Dickwes spheres especially haunting is how little we know about the culture that created them. Unlike the Nazca with their desert glyphs or the Vikings with their swords, the Dickwes left behind no written records, just these silent, enigmatic orbs. Were they symbols of power, representations of celestial bodies, or perhaps tools for rituals we can't even imagine? Modern scanning technology has revealed some spheres contain hidden magnetic anomalies, hinting at selected stones with special properties. Yet for every answer, new questions emerge. Standing before one of these spheres today, you can't help but feel the weight of their mystery. They're not just artifacts, they're a challenge from the past, daring us to unravel a code carved in stone. And as long as they endure, they'll keep whispering the same unsettling question. How much do we really know about the hands that shaped them? Deep in the rolling hills of southeastern Turkey, a cluster of massive stone pillars stands silent guard over a mystery that rewrites human history. Göbekli Tepe, built around 9600 BC, isn't just old, it's impossibly ancient. Picture this, its towering T-shaped monoliths, some weighing over 16 tons, were erected 7,000 years before the Great Pyramids of Giza and 6 millennia before the invention of the wheel. But here's what truly defies logic: this monumental complex was crafted by hunter-gatherers. That's right. At a time when humans were supposed to be living in nomadic bands, scraping together survival, someone organized the labor to carve and transport these megaliths, decorating them with intricate reliefs of lions, scorpions, and vultures in breathtaking detail. What makes Göbekli Tepe so revolutionary is how it flips the traditional narrative of civilization upside down. For decades, archaeologists believed complex societies emerged only after the agricultural revolution, when farming created surplus food, allowing people to settle down and specialize in crafts, governance, and religion. But Göbekli Tepe shatters that timeline. Its builders had no crops, no domesticated animals, yet they somehow marshaled the manpower and skill to erect what may be the world's first temple. The site's circular enclosures, each with two central pillars surrounded by smaller stones, suggest ritual spaces where groups gathered for ceremonies, possibly to worship ancestors or celestial events. The sophistication of the carvings is equally mind-bending. These aren't crude scratchings, they're anatomically precise depictions of animals arranged in dynamic scenes that hint at symbolism and storytelling. One pillar shows a fox carrying a human head, while another depicts a vulture with outstretched wings next to a headless corpse, imagery that some researchers link to early death rituals or sky burials. Even more puzzling are the abstract symbols, H-shaped carvings, crescents, and handbags, yes, handbags that reappear at later sites across Mesopotamia as if part of a shared prehistoric language. But the biggest question hanging over Göbekli Tepe is why? Why would hunter-gatherers invest so much effort into a ceremonial site when daily survival was already a struggle? One radical theory suggests that religion, not agriculture, was the spark that ignited civilization. The need to maintain and gather at this sacred space may have driven people to settle nearby, eventually leading to farming to feed the growing community. Evidence supports this. The earliest domesticated wheat strains appear in the region just centuries after Göbekli Tepe's construction. Then there's the mystery of its burial. Around 8000 BC, the site was deliberately, almost reverently filled in with thousands of tons of soil, preserving it like a time capsule. Was this an act of ritual closure, or did the builders fear what they'd created? Modern excavations have uncovered less than 5% of the complex, leaving the tantalizing possibility that even older structures lie hidden beneath the earth. Standing among these stones today, you can't help but feel the weight of their enigma. Göbekli Tepe doesn't just push back the clock on human achievement, it forces us to ask what else we've gotten wrong about our ancestors. Were they not just surviving, but building towards something we're only beginning to understand? As the sun sets over the ancient pillars, casting long shadows across carvings older than memory, one thing becomes clear. History as we know it is missing chapters, and Göbekli Tepe is holding the pen. High in the Andes, overlooking the modern city of Cusco, stands a fortress that defies both time and explanation, the walls of Sacsayhuaman. Built by the Inca civilization around the 15th century, this zigzagging stone marvel isn't just impressive for its scale, it's the precision of its craftsmanship that leaves engineers speechless. Imagine limestone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, carved and fitted together so seamlessly that not even a razor blade can slide between them. No mortar, no adhesive, just stone meeting stone with mathematical perfection, locked in place for centuries despite earthquakes that have toppled modern buildings nearby. What makes Sacsayhuaman truly baffling isn't just the how of its construction, but the why. Unlike typical fortresses with flat, functional walls, these stones curve and jut in a serpentine design, with edges beveled at exact angles to create interlocking puzzles. Some theorists suggest the zigzag shape mirrors lightning, a sacred symbol to the Incas, while others believe it served as a giant sundial or celestial calendar. Yet the most enduring mystery is the technique behind its assembly. Without the wheel, iron tools, or even a written language, how did the Inca achieve such precision? Modern stonemasons have tried replicating the process using rudimentary tools like bronze chisels and stone hammers, but even with laser-guided measurements, matching the snug fit of these megaliths is nearly impossible. One radical theory proposes the Inca used a plant-based softening agent to mold the stones. A local legend speaks of a magical liquid that made rock pliable. While no evidence confirms this, it's a tantalizing idea, especially given the stone's occasional slight melting appearance, as if heat or chemistry played a role. Others argue the Inca simply possessed an unparalleled understanding of geometry, patiently grinding each block against its neighbor until friction alone created a perfect seal. Theories spiral further when you consider the logistics. These boulders were quarried miles away, dragged uphill without beasts of burden, then lifted into place, all while maintaining millimeter precision. Some blocks have as many as 12 angles, each matching its neighbor like a 3D jigsaw. Even more intriguing are the knobs protruding from certain stones, which some researchers believe acted as handles for maneuvering, while others suggest they anchored ceremonial gold plating. Perhaps the most haunting detail is how little the Inca left behind about their methods. Spanish chroniclers recorded that the fortress was built by giants, a nod to its superhuman scale, but the true architects took their secrets to the grave. Today, Sacsayhuaman stands as both a monument and a riddle, a reminder that even the most visible relics of the past can guard their deepest truths behind walls of stone and silence. Now, let's turn from the mountains of Peru to the deserts of Egypt, where another ancient wonder hides clues just as cryptic. In a dimly lit corner of Istanbul's Topkapi Palace rests a sheepskin parchment that shouldn't exist, the Piri Reis map of 1513. Drafted by an Ottoman admiral using sources he claimed dated back to Alexander the Great, this isn't just another medieval chart. It's a geographical bombshell depicting coastlines with impossible precision, including the most jaw-dropping detail of all, Antarctica without its ice. Let that sink in. Antarctica's glacial shield, which formed millions of years ago, wasn't officially discovered until 1820. Yet here's a map from the Age of Sail showing Queen Maud Land's ice-free contours with eerie accuracy, landmasses that today lie under a mile of frozen crust. Even stranger, the map's latitude and longitude lines are suspiciously advanced for an era when European navigators were still guessing at the shape of Africa. So how did a 16th century cartographer sketch a continent humanity wouldn't find for another 3 centuries? Some researchers point to Piri Reis' own notes where he credits ancient kings and lost maps from the Library of Alexandria. Could he have been copying fragments of a forgotten seafaring tradition? Ancient civilizations like the Phoenicians were legendary navigators, and there are whispers of Egyptian voyages to distant lands. But mapping a landmass buried under ice for 25 million years pushes even that theory to its limits. Then there's the fringe hypothesis that the map preserves knowledge from a prehistoric civilization with technology rivaling our own. Advocates like author Charles Hapgood proposed that Antarctic coasts were charted when they were still habitable, possibly by an advanced culture wiped out in some cataclysm. Mainstream geologists dismiss this, arguing the map's accuracy is exaggerated or that Piri Reis simply got lucky with speculative landmasses. Yet modern sonar scans of Antarctica's subglacial topography reveal unnerving overlaps with the map's outlines, particularly around areas like the Weddell Sea. The debate takes another twist when you examine the map's glaring omissions. It shows no Drake Passage, mistakenly connecting South America to Antarctica, an era that would have been impossible for any culture with first-hand knowledge of the region. Skeptics argue this proves the map is a composite of guesses and half-remembered sailors' tales, not evidence of lost science. But true believers counter that distortions could have crept in over centuries of copying, like a game of cartographic telephone. What makes the Piri Reis map uniquely haunting is how it straddles the line between brilliance and bafflement. Its depiction of the Amazon River's double estuary, a feature only confirmed in the 20th century, suggests access to astonishingly precise data. Yet its inclusion of mermaids and mythical island labels reminds us it's still a product of its superstitious age. Was it pieced together from surviving scraps of a golden age of exploration, or is its accuracy just a series of lucky coincidences? One thing's certain, this fragile parchment whispers of missing chapters in human history. Whether it's proof of ancient mariners braving polar waters or a cosmic riddle we've yet to solve, the Piri Reis map refuses to let us settle for simple answers. It's a mirror held up to our arrogance, showing how much we still don't know about the explorers or the secrets that came before us. Now, let's shift from maps to metal specifically, a set of artifacts so out of place they've been dubbed the world's oldest fake news. Nestled in museums across Europe, the so-called wolf's egg iron objects consist of a perfect cube and several other geometric shapes, all crafted from pure iron, and all allegedly found inside 20-million-year-old coal deposits. If genuine, these metallic anomalies would rewrite not just human history but Earth's evolutionary timeline. So why do most scientists dismiss them as an elaborate hoax? The answer lies in a collision of greed, geology, and the irresistible allure of a good mystery. The story of the London Hammer reads like something plucked straight from a science fiction novel. In 1936, a couple hiking near London, Texas, spotted a curious piece of wood protruding from an ancient rock formation. When they pried it loose, they uncovered what appeared to be a classic 19th century tool, a hammer with a 6-inch wooden handle and a 4-inch iron head. But here's where things get bizarre. The rock encasing it was dated to over 400 million years old, a time when dinosaurs hadn't even evolved, let alone human metalworkers. This peculiar artifact, now dubbed the London Hammer, has sparked debates that rage to this day. On one side, skeptics argue it's a case of mistaken identity, a relatively modern hammer that became embedded in softer limestone, which then hardened around it over centuries. Iron oxidizes quickly, and the hammer's head shows signs of age consistent with 19th century tools left to weather in humid conditions. Even the wood handle, though mineralized, could plausibly be a few hundred years old, not millions. Geologists point out that concretion, a natural process where minerals accumulate around objects, can create the illusion of ancient embedding, but the mystery deepens when you examine the hammer's metallurgy. Tests in the 1980s revealed the iron head is unusually pure with minimal slag, a quality more consistent with 20th century industrial techniques than frontier blacksmithing. Stranger still, the metal showed traces of chlorine, hinting at an unconventional smelting process. Could this be a relic of some forgotten advanced culture, or even, as fringe theorists suggest, proof of time travelers leaving tools behind? The hammer's discoverers noted the surrounding rock bore no cracks or fissures where a modern tool might have been wedged in, making its placement seem inexplicable. Then there's the question of why such an ordinary-looking hammer would be the lone artifact from an alleged advanced civilization. If a lost culture possessed the technology to forge pure iron hammers, where are their cities, their other tools, their records? Supporters counter that singular artifacts do occasionally surface, like the Antikythera Mechanism, suggesting we might be missing larger context. Today, the London Hammer sits in a Texas museum, labeled ambiguously as an out-of-place artifact. It serves as a Rorschach test for how we interpret anomalies, a mundane object caught in geological coincidence, or a whisper from a past that doesn't fit our textbooks. Whether it's a hiccup in dating methods or a genuine enigma, one thing's certain. It reminds us that history's basement still holds unlabeled boxes, and some of them might just rattle when we shake them. Now let's journey from the dusty valleys of Texas to the icy expanse of Siberia, where another artifact defies explanation, the so-called Siberian Space Needle. Discovered in the 1990s in the remote Kamchatka Peninsula, this spiral-shaped metal fragment, estimated to be 300,000 years old, looks like something machined in a factory rather than forged in antiquity. Its coiled design and tungsten content have led some researchers to propose its debris from ancient or extraterrestrial technology. Burrowed into the sandstone hills of Zhejiang Province, China, the Longyu caves stretch underground like the hollow veins of a sleeping giant, 24 hand-carved chambers so vast and precise they seem to defy the limits of ancient engineering. Discovered in 1992 by a curious villager draining a local pond, these caverns descend over 100 feet, their walls chiseled with uniform 60-degree slopes and ceilings adorned with intricate parallel grooves. The sheer scale is staggering. Some chambers could swallow football stadiums, with pillars left standing at exact intervals to support the weight above. Yet what chills researchers isn't just the cave's grandeur, but their eerie emptiness. Here's the puzzle. Carving these caves would have required removing nearly 1 million cubic meters of stone, enough rubble to bury a modern city block. But not a single chip of discarded rock has ever been found nearby. No spoil heaps, no debris-filled valleys, no mention in historical texts. It's as if the vanished builders whisked away every grain of dust, leaving no trace of their labor. Even stranger, the walls bear tool marks identical to those found in quarries, yet the caves show no signs of being mining sites. No precious minerals streak the stone, and the chiseling follows artistic patterns rather than extraction lines. Theories spiral from the practical to the profound. Some archaeologists suggest the caves functioned as imperial hideouts or military storage, though their remote location and lack of defensive features undermine that idea. Others propose they were ceremonial spaces, perhaps linked to the Lost U civilization, known for their dragon worship. The pillars and ceiling grooves might have once held acoustic significance, amplifying chants or drumbeats in rituals now forgotten. Then there's the astronomical angle. Certain chambers align with solstice sun angles, casting dagger-thin light beams onto specific walls during equinoxes. But the most haunting detail lies in the craftsmanship. Each chisel stroke follows mathematical precision, forming symmetrical arches and smooth planes without the aid of compasses or levels. Modern engineers estimate it would take 100 workers 12 years non-stop to replicate just one chamber using ancient tools, yet carbon dating places the cave's construction over 2,000 years ago during the Qin dynasty. How did a pre-industrial society organize such a workforce? Where did the rubble vanish to? And why expend such effort on a project with no clear purpose? Local legends whisper of a mythical emperor who commanded dragons to hollow out the mountains, leaving behind these echoing halls. Standing in the cave's cool silence today, you can almost believe it. The Longyu caves don't just challenge our understanding of ancient labor, they taunt us with the ghost of a civilization that treated megaliths like clay, shaping the earth itself only to erase all evidence of how it was done. Every unanswered question is a reminder. Some secrets aren't buried under the sand, they're hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to notice the absence of what should be there. Now let's travel from China's shadowy caverns to the sun-baked cliffs of New Mexico, where another enigma hides in the petroglyphs of the Choco Canyon. High in the mist-shrouded mountains of China's Bayanhar Range, a discovery emerged in 1938 that would ignite one of archaeology's most enduring controversies, the Dropa stones. According to reports, a team led by archaeologist Kai Pute stumbled upon a series of caves near the Tibet border, their walls adorned with strange pictographs. But it was what lay on the cave floors that sparked decades of debate. Hundreds of stone discs, each roughly 12 inches wide, with a perfect hole at the center and spiral grooves radiating outward like vinyl records. At first glance, they seemed like ritual objects or primitive wheels until researchers allegedly noticed something impossible. The grooves weren't decorative. Under magnification, they resolved into lines of microscopic hieroglyphs, a script so tiny it would have required tools far beyond Neolithic technology. Translations by Russian linguist Dr. Tsumam Nui, whose very existence is disputed, supposedly revealed an even more shocking story. The discs chronicled the crash landing of an alien spacecraft 12,000 years ago, its occupants the Dropa people stranded on Earth and eventually integrating with local tribes. But here's where fact and fiction blur. no credible academic institution has ever examined these disks, and the original research notes vanished during World War II. Skeptics argue the entire story is a hoax cobbled together from misidentified burial artifacts and sensationalized by UFO enthusiasts. The spiral writing could be natural weathering patterns or later carvings added to genuine ancient disks. Even the name Dropa raises red flags. It bears no relation to any known Tibetan or Chinese dialect, sounding suspiciously like a sci-fi invention. Yet the legend persists, fueled by grainy photos and claims that one disc was analyzed in 1962 at a Moscow university, showing unusual metallic content and vibration patterns. Independent investigations, however, found only mundane materials like granite and limestone. The truth likely lies somewhere between cosmic fantasy and archaeological misadventure, a cautionary tale about how easily folklore can eclipse evidence. Whether the Dropa stones are ancient astronaut artifacts or an elaborate myth, they expose our hunger for mysteries that challenge the boundaries of history. In a world where we've mapped the human genome and probed Mars, the idea that 12,000-year-old disks might hold messages from the stars reminds us how much we still long for the unexplained. And that, perhaps, is their real power, not as relics of alien visitors, but as mirrors reflecting our endless fascination with the unknown. Now, let's descend from the realm of interstellar speculation to the hard-packed earth of Turkey, where another enigma lies buried: the underground cities of Cappadocia. These labyrinthine tunnels, some descending 18 levels deep, pose a very human mystery. Why would entire civilizations choose to live in darkness? Off the coast of Japan's Yonaguni Island, beneath turquoise waves and darting schools of fish, lies a structure so colossal and geometric it seems ripped from the pages of a fantasy novel. The Yonaguni Monument, first discovered by diver Chihiro Aratake in 1986, rises from the ocean floor like a sunken citadel, a series of massive terraces, sharp right angles, and staircases that spiral downward into the abyss. At first glance, it looks unmistakably man-made, a sprawling complex of platforms and pillars that could easily pass as the ruins of an ancient temple. But here's the catch: it's submerged under 50 feet of water, in a spot that's been drowned since the end of the last ice age over 10,000 years ago. Marine geologists are sharply divided on its origins. Skeptics argue it's a breathtaking but entirely natural formation, carved by millennia of ocean currents and tectonic shifts. They point to the island's sandstone bedrock, which fractures in clean, angular lines when eroded, creating what's known as sheet jointing. The monument's so-called terraces could simply be exposed layers of this stone, while its staircases might be nothing more than collapsed sections where weaker rock gave way. Even the monument's most famous feature, a towering monolith nicknamed the Turtle, could be a coincidence of geology shaped by the relentless grind of underwater eddies. But then there are the details that defy easy explanation. The monument's near-perfect 90-degree corners, the twin megaliths at its center, positioned like gateposts with eerie symmetry. The straight, purposeful channels that cut across its surface, some aligned with solstice sunrises. Most compelling of all are the tool marks reportedly found on certain surfaces, grooves and indentations that resemble those left by ancient quarrying techniques. Proponents of the man-made theory, like researcher Masaki Kimura, argue that the monument's layout mirrors known sacred sites from Japan's Jomon period, a culture that thrived over 12,000 years ago. If true, this would push back the timeline of advanced architecture in East Asia by millennia. Then there are the wildcard theories. Some speculate the monument is a remnant of the legendary lost continent of Mu, a Pacific counterpart to Atlantis said to have vanished beneath the waves. Ancient astronaut enthusiasts go further, suggesting the site's precision engineering points to otherworldly intervention. But the most haunting possibility is simpler. that Yonaguni is evidence of a sophisticated prehistoric culture obliterated by rising seas, their achievements erased in a single climactic cataclysm. What makes this debate so gripping is how it forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge. If nature sculpted Yonaguni, it's a masterpiece of chance, a reminder that the earth can mimic human artistry with uncanny precision. But if human hands carved these stones, then history has lost an entire chapter, one written in stone and swallowed by the sea, until divers uncover undeniable proof, a tool, an inscription, a pottery shard wedged between the cracks. Yonaguni will remain archaeology's ultimate Rorschach test, a mirror reflecting what we're willing to believe about the forgotten past. Now, let's leave Japanese Chinese letter waters for the dry valleys of Peru, where another enigma hides in plain sight. The Nazca Lines' lesser-known cousin, the Paracas candelabra. Hanging in the dim light of Turin's cathedral, a single piece of linen has fueled debate for centuries: the Shroud of Turin, a 14-foot-long cloth imprinting the haunting image of a crucified man. At first glance, it appears to be a medieval religious relic, but look closer and the mysteries multiply. The faint, straw-yellow stain forming the body's outline isn't paint or dye, it's a chemical change in the fibers themselves, as if seared by some unknown energy. Even more startling, the image possesses three-dimensional data, almost like a photographic negative, with shading that corresponds perfectly to the contours of a human form. How could a medieval forger or anyone before the age of photography create such precision? The controversy erupted in 1988 when radiocarbon dating placed the shroud's origins between 1260 and 1390, squarely in the Middle Ages. Skeptics declared it a brilliant hoax, possibly crafted to attract pilgrims and their donations, but almost immediately dissenting voices emerged. Critics pointed out that the tested sample came from a repaired edge, possibly contaminated by centuries of handling and fire damage. The shroud survived a blaze in 1532, which could have altered its carbon signature. Later studies noted that microbial growth on the fibers might have skewed results, while textile experts observed weaving techniques resembling those from 1st century Judea, not medieval Europe. Then there's the image itself, a puzzle no one has fully replicated. Scientists have tried for decades to recreate it using medieval methods, rubbing cloth with pigment, applying acid vapors, even using sunlight to scorch outlines. None produce the shroud's unique properties. The image only penetrates the topmost fibers, lacks any directional brushstrokes, and encodes distance information like a topographical map. In 2009, an Italian research team blasted a modern linen cloth with a UV laser, briefly achieving similar superficial discoloration. Their conclusion: the shroud's image would require a flash of light equivalent to 34,000 billion watts, an energy burst beyond any known 14th century technology. Theories about its origin swing from the devout to the defiant. Some believers argue it's the genuine burial cloth of Jesus, its image seared during the resurrection by divine energy. Others propose it's a medieval art experiment gone spectacularly right, perhaps using an early form of camera obscura to project a body's silhouette onto treated cloth. Then there's the fringe hypothesis that it's a relic from a lost civilization with advanced imaging technology, later misinterpreted as a holy artifact. What lingers beyond the science and suspicion is the visceral power of the shroud's imagery. The wounds align with Roman crucifixion practices, lacerations from a flagrum whip, a puncture in the wrist consistent with nail placement, even a chest wound matching gospel accounts. Pollen grains trapped in the fabric include species native to Jerusalem, and faint traces of limestone dust mirror the city's geology. Whether divine or ingeniously deceptive, the Shroud of Turin remains a mirror held up to faith and science alike, a challenge that refuses to fade, much like its enigmatic, ghostly portrait. Now, let's turn from Italy's sacred relic to the windswept plains of Romania, where a different kind of artifact defies explanation, the mysterious Ayod wedge, a slab of metal found buried among mastodon bones. Rising from the red clay of rural Georgia like a modern-day Stonehenge, the Georgia Guidestones stood as one of America's most cryptic monuments until their abrupt and violent end. Erected in 1980 under the shadow of Cold War tensions, these 20-foot-tall granite slabs bore 10 directives engraved in 8 languages, from English to Swahili, offering a blueprint for rebuilding civilization after catastrophe. But unlike ancient relics shrouded in the dust of time, the Guidestones' mystery was fresh, their creators deliberately anonymous, and their message so provocative it sparked decades of conspiracy theories before being reduced to rubble in a single explosive night. The stone's instructions read like a manifesto for a new age: calls to maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature, to guide reproduction wisely, and to prize truth, beauty, love. To some, they were a humanitarian vision, to others a dystopian plot. Their origin story only deepened the intrigue, commissioned by a man using the pseudonym R.C. Christian, who claimed to represent a small group of loyal Americans. The project involved meticulous coordination with a local granite company and architects. Christian paid upfront in cash, vanished after completion, and left behind no paper trail, just a time capsule buried nearby with unverified contents. This secrecy fueled wild speculation. Were the Guidestones a warning from elites anticipating global collapse, a Rosetta Stone for survivors of a coming catastrophe? Or perhaps an art project gone viral? What made the Guidestones uniquely unsettling was their fusion of ancient form and modern intent. Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism or Dropa stones, whose creators' motives are lost to history, these slabs spoke directly to contemporary fears: overpopulation, environmental collapse, nuclear war. Their multilingual etchings suggested a global audience, while their alignment with celestial markers hinted at esoteric knowledge. Conspiracy theorists latched onto parallels with Georgia's Masonic history, noting the state's ties to America's founding fraternal orders. Even the monument's demolition in 2022, reportedly by explosives planted by anti-New World Order activists, felt like a scene from a thriller, live streamed to a polarized public. Today, all that remains are shattered fragments and unanswered questions. The Guidestones' physical erasure hasn't silenced their symbolic power. If anything, it's amplified the debate they embodied. Were they a harmless thought experiment, a sinister agenda, or something in between? In a world where history's mysteries usually soften with age, this was one that burned brighter the closer it got to the present, proof that some enigmas aren't buried in the past but planted squarely in the path of the future. Now, let's journey from Georgia's fractured monument to the dense jungles of Honduras, where explorers stumbled upon a lost city so untouched, it's been called the Lost City of the Monkey God. Standing like silent sentinels on the remote shores of Easter Island, the Moai statues have captivated the world with their sheer scale and enigmatic presence. These towering figures, some weighing up to 80 tons and standing 30 feet tall, were carved from volcanic rock centuries ago by the Rapa Nui people. But the real mystery isn't just how they were crafted, it's how they traveled miles across rugged terrain to their final resting places along the coast. The debate over their transportation has sparked a clash between scientific theories and indigenous legends, each offering a radically different lens on this ancient feat. On one side, archaeologists point to a method as ingenious as it is simple, the walking theory. Experiments led by researchers like Terry Hunt and Carl Lipo demonstrate how teams could have rocked the statues side to side using ropes, effectively walking them forward in a rhythmic motion. Replicas moved this way show minimal ground damage, matching the island's ancient roadways. This approach would have required careful coordination, but not superhuman effort, just physics, patience, and communal labor. Supporting this, tool marks on abandoned moai suggest they were moved upright, not dragged horizontally. Yet skeptics argue that even with this technique, transporting hundreds of statues without catastrophic accidents strains credulity. But for the Rapa Nui people, the answer lies not in ropes and leverage, but in something far more mystical: mana. Oral traditions speak of a sacred spiritual energy wielded by chiefs and priests, allowing the moai to glide effortlessly to their platforms or ahu. One legend tells of a priest who commanded a statue to walk with the power of his chant alone. These stories aren't just folklore, they reflect a worldview where the physical and spiritual realms intertwine. To dismiss them as mere myth ignores a deeper truth. The Rapa Nui didn't just move stone, they animated it with meaning. The statues weren't inert rock, they were vessels of ancestral power, their journeys as much ritual as engineering. The tension between these explanations reveals more than just a disagreement over methods, it's a collision of perspectives. Science seeks to demystify, breaking down the process into measurable steps. Indigenous knowledge embraces the ineffable, where human effort blends with cosmic forces. Both narratives hold fragments of the truth. Perhaps the moai did walk, swayed by teams of laborers but guided by chants and ceremonies that turned backbreaking work into a sacred act. Or maybe the mana described wasn't magic at all, but the collective will of a people united by purpose, their belief as vital as their muscles. Today, the moai stand as silent witnesses to this unresolved puzzle. Their empty eyes gaze past our debates, holding secrets we may never fully uncover. Whether moved by ropes or by prayer, they remain a testament to human ingenuity and a humbling reminder that some mysteries resist neat explanations. The stones may have stopped walking, but the questions they provoke continue to stride forward, challenging us to bridge the gap between what we can prove and what we feel in our bones. Now, let's shift from the Pacific's open skies to the shadowy depths of Mexico, where another ancient wonder defies logic: the colossal stone heads of the Olmec civilization. Deep in the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, Egypt, a series of cryptic carvings crawl across the walls, sparking a debate that crackles with controversy. One particular relief shows what looks eerily like a giant light bulb, a curved glass enclosure with a snaking filament inside, resting on a pillar that resembles an insulated base. At the bulb's base, a figure reaches toward it as if adjusting a switch, while a baboon-like creature sits atop like some ancient technician. To the untrained eye, it's shockingly modern, a depiction of electrical illumination carved millennia before Edison's birth. But is this truly evidence of lost technology, or just a case of our modern minds projecting onto sacred symbolism? Mainstream Egyptologists offer a far less sensational explanation. They identify the relief as part of a larger cosmological narrative, depicting the creation myth of the snake god Harsomtus emerging from a lotus flower, a symbol of rebirth tied to the sun's cyclical journey. The filament is likely a stylized serpent, its undulating form representing divine energy, while the bulb echoes the womb-like shape of the lotus from which the god emerges. Nearby hieroglyphs reference rituals for bringing forth light, but in a spiritual sense, not an electrical one. Even the baboon is no mechanic, it's Thoth, the god of wisdom, overseeing the sacred scene. Context is key. Similar serpent in lotus motifs appear across Egyptian art, always tied to mythology, not machinery. Yet the fringe theory refuses to dim. Proponents of ancient electricity point to other anomalies: the temple's subterranean chambers, where soot-free ceilings suggest alternative lighting methods, and the infamous Baghdad Battery, which some believe could have powered such devices. They argue the Dendera relief's precision, the clear separation of glass from filament, the bulb's tapered end, is too deliberate to dismiss as mere art. Even the pillar's resemblance to an insulator with its stacked discs fuels speculation. Could this be a coded blueprint for a technology the priesthood guarded fiercely? The truth, as often happens in archaeology, may lie in the shadows between these extremes. While no wires or generators have been found in Egypt, the civilization's mastery of chemistry and metallurgy was staggering. Priests might have used bioluminescent algae or polished mirrors to create luminous effects for rituals, tricks that could have seemed like magic or even electricity to the uninitiated. The relief could simultaneously represent both a snake deity and a real device, a symbolic merging of the divine and the technological. After all, isn't that how we mythologize our own inventions today? What makes the Dendera carving so compelling isn't just its ambiguity, but the questions it forces us to ask. How much of our modern knowledge is truly new? Could fragments of advanced understanding have survived in myth, only to be rediscovered millennia later? Whether it's a light bulb or a lotus, one thing's certain: the relief shines a light on our own biases. We see the past through the lens of the present, and sometimes the most electrifying mysteries aren't in the artifacts but in the way we choose to interpret them. Now let's journey from Egypt's glowing walls to the windswept plains of Scotland, where an entirely different kind of ancient puzzle lies buried: the mysterious carved stone balls of Neolithic Britain. Scattered across the rolling hills of northern Laos like discarded vessels of forgotten giants, the Plain of Jars presents one of Southeast Asia's most haunting archaeological puzzles. Thousands of stone jars, some as tall as 9 feet and weighing several tons, dot the landscape in clusters of up to 400, their hollow interiors gaping skyward like silent mouths. Carved from sandstone, granite, and even coral limestone between 500 BC and 500 AD, these megalithic containers defy easy explanation. Were they funeral urns holding the ashes of ancient kings, fermentation vats for brewing ceremonial rice wine, or perhaps something far stranger, tied to local legends of a towering race that once roamed these highlands? The most widely accepted theory links the jars to burial practices. Early French archaeologists in the 1930s uncovered human remains, pottery shards, and beads inside some jars, suggesting they served as secondary burial sites where bones were stored after initial cremation or exposure. Similar traditions persist among modern ethnic groups in Laos, where communal ossuaries honor the dead, but mysteries linger. If these were funerary vessels, why do most lack skeletal remains? Why the variation in size, from modest buckets to colossal tubs? And why are many lids scattered nearby, as if sealing contents that have long since vanished? Then there's the fermentation hypothesis. Some researchers point to the jar's strategic placement near ancient trade routes, proposing they stored rainwater or brewed alcohol for weary travelers. Local oral histories describe a mythical giant named Kun Cheung, who crafted the jars to ferment vast quantities of celebratory wine after defeating his enemies. The sheer scale supports this. Some clusters could have produced enough rice beer to supply entire villages for festivals. Yet skeptics counter that no residue tests have confirmed organic traces, and the effort to carve these monoliths seems excessive for mere storage. The enigma deepens when you consider the logistics. These jars weren't just placed, they were transported. Quarries lie miles from some sites, meaning prehistoric laborers moved multi-ton stone blocks across rivers and rugged terrain without wheels or beasts of burden. How local lore whispers of giants rolling the jars into place, a tantalizing echo of similar megalithic myths from Easter Island to Stonehenge. Even more intriguing are the carved symbols found on a few jars, concentric circles and human figures that some interpret as star maps or clan markings, though no Rosetta Stone exists to decode them. Modern conflict has tragically obscured the truth. During the Vietnam War, American bombs pockmarked the plains, leaving unexploded ordnance that still hampers research today. Only a fraction of the estimated 3,000 jars have been cleared for study, with many potential clues lost to shrapnel and erosion. What remains is a landscape suspended between history and myth, where every unopened lid might conceal answers or deepen the riddle. Whether funeral urns, brewing vats, or vessels for a purpose we've yet to imagine, the Plain of Jars stands as a testament to humanity's relentless drive to leave marks that outlast memory. Like the giants of legend, these silent sentinels loom over time itself, challenging us to unravel the stories they guard, one carved stone at a time. Now let's journey from the misty highlands of Laos to the sun-scorched deserts of Saudi Arabia, where another ancient marvel hides in plain sight: the mysterious mustartils, stone structures so vast they're only visible from the sky. In the lush valleys of Visoko, just outside Sarajevo, a controversy simmers beneath the rolling green hills, one that could rewrite Europe's ancient history or expose a modern-day archaeological illusion. Meet the so-called Bosnian pyramids, a cluster of landforms that amateur archaeologist Semir Osmanagic insists are the handiwork of a lost civilization. Since 2005, Osmanagic has claimed these aren't natural hills but the world's largest pyramids, predating Egypt's by thousands of years, his evidence. Symmetrical slopes aligned with cardinal directions, mysterious tunnels filled with energy, and stone blocks he says bear tool marks. But here's where the plot thickens. The scientific community has overwhelmingly dismissed these claims as geological fantasy, sparking a clash between nationalist pride and academic rigor. On the surface, the hills do seem suspiciously geometric. The largest, dubbed the Pyramid of the Sun, rises at a near-perfect 45-degree angle, while thermal imaging allegedly reveals man-made layers beneath the soil. Osmanagic's team points to underground tunnels like Ravni, where they've removed tons of rubble to expose smooth, megalithic walls and strange ceramic sculptures they claim emit healing frequencies. Visitors report feeling dizzy or energized in these passageways, fueling New Age theories about ancient vibrational technology. But geologists counter that the hills are natural formations called flatirons, common in regions with layered sedimentary rock that fractures into angular shapes. The stone blocks just weathered conglomerate, the tunnels medieval mines or natural cast caves. Even the energy readings have been debunked as faulty instruments picking up background radiation. What makes this debate more than academic is the fervor behind it. For post-war Bosnia, the pyramids have become a symbol of identity and potential tourism gold. Locals proudly sell pyramid-shaped souvenirs, and thousands flock to the site annually, drawn by headlines claiming a European Giza. Government officials have endorsed excavations, hoping to boost the economy, while critics accuse them of ignoring science for spectacle. Archaeologists from the European Association of Archaeologists have condemned the project as a cruel hoax, warning that untrained digging is destroying genuine medieval artifacts. Yet Osmanagic soldiers on, funded by private donors and volunteers, convinced they're unearthing proof of an advanced prehistoric culture, one he links to the mythical Atlanteans. The Bosnian pyramids embody a timeless tension, our desire to uncover lost glory versus the discipline of evidence. They ask us how far we'll stretch the past to fit the narratives we crave, whether that's national revival, spiritual awakening, or simply the thrill of a mystery. For now, the hills remain, their secrets still buried under layers of hope, hype, and the unyielding laws of geology. Whether they're ancient monuments or natural wonders, one truth is undeniable. They've already shaped a modern myth, proving that sometimes the most powerful archaeology isn't about what we dig up, but what we believe lies waiting beneath our feet. Now, let's travel from the contested hills of Bosnia to the crystalline waters of the Bahamas, where another enigma lurks beneath the waves. The Bimini Road, a submerged formation some swear is a road to Atlantis. Nestled in the dusty valleys of Peru's Ica region, a collection of stones has ignited one of archaeology's most polarizing debates. The Ica stones, etched with images so bizarre they seem ripped from a sci-fi novel. Dinosaurs grazing alongside humans, surgeons performing cesarean sections with precision tools, telescopes pointed at distant stars. all carved into river-smoothed andesite rocks by an anonymous hand. At first glance, they appear to be smoking gun evidence of a lost civilization with knowledge far beyond its time. But here's the twist. These stones are almost certainly an elaborate hoax, yet their allure persists, fueled by a potent mix of wishful thinking, nationalist pride, and the timeless human hunger for mysteries that defy the textbooks. The story begins in the 1960s when a local farmer named Basilio Ashuya claimed to have discovered the stones in ancient burial caves. Soon after, they flooded the black market, catching the eye of a Peruvian physician named Javier Cabrera, who amassed over 15,000 of them, transforming his home into a makeshift museum. Cabrera became the stone's chief evangelist, arguing they were relics of a pre-Incan civilization that coexisted with dinosaurs and mastered advanced medicine. The implications were earth-shaking. If authentic, they'd rewrite everything we know about human history, but red flags emerged quickly. Geologists noted the carvings' sharp, unweathered grooves, suggesting they were made decades, not millennia, ago. Then Ashuya himself admitted the truth in a 1974 interview. He'd carved the stones himself using dental tools, inspired by comic books and dinosaur illustrations. Case closed, not quite. What makes the Ica stones fascinating isn't their authenticity, it's the stubborn refusal of their myth to die. Even after Ashuya's confession, Cabrera doubled down, insisting the farmer had lied to avoid prosecution for selling antiquities. Conspiracy theorists latched onto inconsistencies. Why would a barely literate farmer produce carvings with anatomically accurate dinosaurs or depictions of heart transplants? Some argue he couldn't have known, for example, that certain sauropods held their tails aloft, a detail only confirmed by paleontology in the 1990s. Of course, the simpler explanation is that later carvers updated their designs as scientific knowledge evolved. But for believers, the stones became a rallying cry against the closed-minded academic establishment. The stones also tapped into deeper cultural currents. For some Peruvians, they symbolized a reclaimed heritage, proof that their ancestors possessed knowledge stolen or ignored by Western scholars. This narrative found eager audiences among alternative history circles, where the idea of pre-Columbian advanced civilizations or even extraterrestrial influence resonates powerfully. The stone's imagery, however absurd, offered a tantalizing what if. What if humanity's timeline isn't linear? What if pockets of advanced knowledge rose and fell long before recorded history? Ultimately, the Ica stones are a Rorschach test for how we confront anomalies. Do we dismiss them as fakes, or do we see them as cracks in a flawed historical narrative? While mainstream science has moved on, the stones endure as cultural artifacts not of an ancient civilization, but of our own era's obsessions with hidden truths and marginalized knowledge. They remind us that sometimes the most compelling mysteries aren't about the past, but about why we so desperately want to believe. Now, let's turn from Peru's fabricated relics to a genuine enigma. Half a world away, the unsettling metal orbs of Romania's Aod Wedge, found buried in sediments older than human history. Buried beneath the rolling hills of Romania, a cache of clay tablets from the ancient Vinca culture has ignited a firestorm in the world of archaeology. Known as the Tartaria tablets, these palm-sized artifacts date back over 7,000 years, older than the Great Pyramids and millennia before the rise of Sumerian cuneiform. At first glance, they look unremarkable, small, fired clay discs etched with looping, abstract symbols resembling spirals, crosses, and branching lines. But the controversy lies in those very marks. Could these scratchings represent the earliest form of writing in human history, or are they merely ritual doodles, a prehistoric artist's idle musings? The stakes couldn't be higher. If these symbols are indeed a script, they'd upend the traditional narrative that writing began in Mesopotamia around 3200 BC. Imagine a world where the Danube Valley, not the Fertile Crescent, birthed the written word, Proponents of the writing theory, like archaeologist Marija Gimbutas, point to the symbol's repetition and apparent groupings features that suggest a system of communication, not random art. Some glyphs reappear across distant Vinci sites, hinting at shared meaning. A particularly contentious symbol, a branching Y shape, appears on tablets hundreds of miles apart, almost like a prehistoric logo or deity marker. But skeptics strike back with equal fervor. Critics argue the marks lack the consistency of true writing, no clear syntax, no surviving text longer than a few symbols. Unlike Sumerian cuneiform, which evolved from accounting tokens into complex literature, the Tartaria symbols show no such progression. Instead, they cluster around ritual sites, often near altars or burial goods, suggesting they might be sacred graffiti or clan markings. Experimental archaeologists have even recreated similar symbols using basic tools in minutes, fueling doubts that these required specialized literacy. The debate takes a fascinating turn when you consider how these symbols were used. Some tablets bear puncture marks, as if they were once strung together like a primitive filing system. Others show signs of being pressed into wet clay, possibly as seals for goods or homes, a Bronze Age barcode system. This practical application blurs the line between writing and labeling. Could the Vinci have developed a partial script, something beyond mere art but not quite full-fledged writing? The Inca's knot-based quipu system proves that complex record-keeping doesn't always require glyphs. What makes the Tartaria tablets uniquely tantalizing is the possibility that we're not looking at failed writing, but lost writing. The Vinci culture vanished mysteriously around 4500 BC, leaving behind no Rosetta Stone to decode their symbols. Without context, the marks remain trapped in a kind of archaeological limbo, too deliberate to dismiss as decoration, too sparse to confirm as language. Modern attempts to decipher them using computational linguistics have yielded no breakthroughs, leaving the tablets to hum with untranslatable potential. Standing before these tiny clay fragments today, you're struck by their quiet defiance. They refuse to fit neatly into our timelines, our categories, our need for clear firsts. Whether they're sacred symbols, merchant tallies, or the ghost of a script still waiting to be understood, the Tartaria tablets challenge us to rethink the messy, nonlinear path of human ingenuity. After all, history isn't a race with a single finish line. It's a mosaic of experiments, some forgotten, some half-finished, all whispering that the past might hold more surprises than we dare imagine. Now, let's journey from the cryptic symbols of Eastern Europe to the sun-baked cliffs of Australia, where another ancient enigma hides in plain sight: the Aboriginal rock art of the Wandjina, figures so otherworldly they've been called the sky beings. In the hushed halls of Cairo's Egyptian Museum, nestled among golden sarcophagi and jeweled amulets, sits an artifact that seems wildly out of place, a delicate wooden figurine known as the Saqqara bird. Discovered in 1898 amidst the funerary offerings of a 2,000-year-old tomb, this unassuming object resembles a falcon at first glance until you notice the sleek, tapered wings and distinct vertical tail fin. Features that look less like avian anatomy and more like the blueprint for a glider. Weighing barely an ounce and spanning 7 inches, the Saqqara bird has become one of archaeology's most polarizing puzzles. Was it a child's toy, a ceremonial object, or something far more revolutionary, evidence that ancient Egyptians dabbled in aerodynamics centuries before Da Vinci sketched his flying machines? Mainstream Egyptologists lean toward the mundane. They argue the bird is likely a ritualistic representation of Horus, the falcon-headed sky god, or perhaps a weather vane for sacred boats during processions. The lack of hieroglyphs or contextual clues in its burial site supports this view. It was just one of many wooden models placed in tombs to serve the deceased in the afterlife. But then there's the tail fin. Unlike any known bird's anatomy, this flat, perpendicular appendage mirrors the stabilizers on modern aircraft, a design crucial for maintaining balance during flight. In 1969, a revelation added fuel to the fire. Aeronautical engineer Dr. Kolul Messiha noted the bird's uncanny resemblance to a monoplane and theorized it might be a scale model of a larger glider. Wind tunnel tests in the 2000s seemed to support this. When replicated with a slightly upturned wing curvature, the Saqqara bird achieved stable glide patterns, outperforming random wooden shapes by a significant margin. Skeptics counter that correlation isn't causation. Just because an object can glide doesn't mean its creators intended it to. Ancient artisans often exaggerated features for symbolic reasons. Might the tail fin simply be a stylized feather or a carving error? Without written records or additional models, the bird remains an outlier. Yet enthusiasts point to the Egyptians' documented ingenuity, their understanding of leverage in pyramid construction, their precision in star mapping, even their rumored use of electrical concepts like the Dendera light. Could flight have been another frontier they explored? The truth might lie in the middle. Some researchers propose the Saqqara bird represents a proto-scientific curiosity, a craftsman observing how darted birds stabilized in flight and replicating the principle in wood, not as a working aircraft but as an abstract nod to observed physics. What makes this artifact so captivating isn't just the did they or didn't they debate. It's how effortlessly it bridges the gap between the sacred and the scientific. Whether a divine symbol or a rudimentary flight manual, the Saqqara bird soars beyond its size, challenging us to reconsider where the line between ritual and innovation truly lies. In its silent wooden curves, we're left to wonder, did the ancients look to the skies not just in worship, but with the spark of something resembling experimentation? For now, the answer remains as elusive as a feather on the wind. Now, let's turn from Egypt's aerial enigma to the icy peaks of the Andes, where another ancient artifact defies explanation. The mysterious vitrified forts of Scotland, stone structures fused by heat so intense it rivals modern furnaces. Deep in the farmlands of Minnesota, a weathered slab of greywacke rock bears markings that could rewrite North American history or reveal one of archaeology's most persistent hoaxes. The Kensington runestone, discovered in 1898 by Swedish immigrant farmer Olof Öhman, is etched with runes that tell a harrowing tale. A band of Norse explorers ventured inland from Vinland in the year 1362, only to meet tragedy. 8 Goths and 22 Norwegians on this acquisition journey from Vinland. The inscription reads, ending with the chilling line, 10 men red with blood and dead avium save us from evil. If genuine, this would be the first concrete evidence of Vikings pushing deep into mainland America over a century before Columbus. But from the moment Öhman pried the stone from the roots of a fallen aspen tree, skepticism and controversy have shadowed it like a storm cloud. Linguists and historians are sharply divided. Proponents point to the runestone's unique blend of runic styles, some matching medieval Scandinavian script, others resembling older Germanic symbols, as proof it couldn't have been faked by a farmer with no formal education. The inscription's mixture of dialects and its use of the word Vinland, only known from Norse sagas, suggest authentic 14th century origins. Even the rock's weathering patterns, analyzed in 2008, show mineral deposits in the carvings consistent with centuries of exposure. But detractors wield equally compelling arguments. Critics note grammatical oddities like the inconsistent use of plural forms and anachronistic runes that resemble 19th century Scandinavian romanticized versions rather than authentic medieval script. Most damning, the stone's discovery coincided with a wave of nationalist fervor among Scandinavian immigrants eager to prove their ancestors' pre-Columbian prowess, a motive ripe for forgery. The debate takes a stranger turn when you examine Öhman himself. A quiet, unassuming man, he never profited from the stone, even refusing payment when museums expressed interest. Yet his background raises questions. Though illiterate in English, he'd grown up surrounded by runic inscriptions in Sweden and may have absorbed enough to cobble together a convincing fake. Then there's the curious case of the missing 10. The runestone mentions 30 explorers but only 20 deaths. What happened to the remaining 10? Some theorists propose they assimilated with local tribes, pointing to alleged Norse artifacts found in Native American burial mounds nearby. Others argue this ambiguity is the hallmark of a forger overcomplicating his tale. Modern technology has only deepened the mystery. In 2020, 3D scans revealed tool marks suggesting the runes were carved in a single session with a chisel consistent with either a 14th century craftsman or a 19th century hoaxer working hastily. Meanwhile, isotopic analysis of the stone's manganese content hints at Scandinavian origins, though whether the rock itself traveled or the carver did remains unclear. What makes the Kensington runestone uniquely captivating isn't just the question of its authenticity, it's what the controversy reveals about our obsession with rewriting history. For Scandinavian Americans, it's a badge of ancestral pride. For academics, a cautionary tale about cultural wishful thinking. Whether it's a Viking's last testament or a farmer's clever ruse, the stone's true power lies in its ability to straddle two worlds, a relic of medieval exploration and a mirror reflecting our timeless hunger to belong to a grander narrative. Now, let's shift from the contested farmland of Minnesota to the misty highlands of Scotland, where another ancient puzzle hides in plain sight. The Cochno stone, a massive slab carved with mysterious symbols that may hold the key to prehistoric astronomy. Buried in the sands of southern Iraq, a collection of eerie clay figurines stares back at archaeologists with slitted reptilian eyes. These 7,000-year-old artifacts unearthed at the ancient Ubaid sites depict humanoid figures with elongated heads, tapered faces, and unmistakably lizard-like features, some cradling infants, others posed in ritualistic stances. Their discovery has fueled speculation that could have been ripped from a sci-fi novel. Are these merely symbolic shamanic representations, or could they hint at something far more unsettling? A cultural memory of the Anunnaki, the serpentine gods of Mesopotamian myth. The Ubaid culture, a precursor to Sumerian civilization, flourished between 5,500 and 4,000 BC, leaving behind pottery, tools, and these perplexing statuettes. Mainstream archaeology interprets them as spiritual icons, possibly linked to fertility rites or totemic worship. The exaggerated features, almond-shaped eyes, scaly skin patterns, and missing nostrils align with artistic traditions that amplify otherworldly traits to denote supernatural beings. Similar stylized figurines appear across prehistoric cultures, from the Venus of Willendorf to Aztec feathered serpent carvings. But what sets the Ubaid lizards apart is their uncanny specificity. Unlike abstract fertility symbols, these figures wear shoulder adornments and finely detailed postures, as if mimicking a known entity. This precision has led fringe theorists to connect them to the Anunnaki, those who from heaven to earth came, described in Sumerian texts as reptilian deities who gifted humanity civilization. Ancient astronaut enthusiasts argue the figurines could represent encounters with an advanced species or even genetic experiments blending human and reptilian DNA. Skeptics counter that such claims ignore cultural context. The Ubaid people lived near marshlands teeming with reptiles, creatures that likely symbolized renewal due to their shedding skins. A lizard-headed deity might have embodied themes of transformation, not extraterrestrial visitation. Yet the mystery deepens when you examine the figurines' distribution. They cluster around temples and burial sites, often placed in positions of reverence. Some hold breastfeeding infants, suggesting a protective role, while others grasp staffs or scepters, implying authority. Their genderless forms and consistent reptilian traits across hundreds of miles hint at a shared mythological lexicon, one that possibly influenced later Mesopotamian gods like Ningishzida, the serpent deity of healing. Whether shamanic avatars or echoes of a lost narrative, the Ubaid lizardmen remain a riddle wrapped in clay. They force us to confront how easily symbolism and memory blur across millennia. After all, if a culture vanished tomorrow, would future archaeologists interpret our dragon myths as proof of monsters, or as metaphors we'd recognize instantly? The figurines' true meaning may lie not in their scales, but in the human impulse to shape the unknown into forms we can almost understand. Now, let's leave Iraq's enigmatic reptiles for the windswept plains of Kazakhstan, where another ancient oddity defies explanation: the soaring stone monoliths of the Ushtegay Square. Tucked away in the storerooms of the main state museum lies a tiny artifact with outsized implications: a silver coin no larger than a fingernail, stamped with the unmistakable profile of a medieval Norse king. Known as the main penny, this humble fragment of currency was unearthed in 1957 at a 12th century Native American settlement, sparking a debate that cuts to the heart of one of archaeology's most tantalizing questions. Did Vikings and indigenous peoples cross paths in North America beyond their famed Newfoundland encampment at Elance Orks Meadows? The coin itself is undeniably genuine and a Norwegian penny minted during the reign of King Olaf Kyrre between 1067 and 1093, its weathered surface bearing the Latin inscription Olaf on the Nidans. But how it ended up over 2,000 miles southwest of the only confirmed Norse site in Canada is where the mystery deepens. Mainstream scholars propose a far less cinematic explanation than Viking explorers venturing down the coast, gradual trade networks. Indigenous peoples along the eastern seaboard were known to exchange goods across vast distances, and the coin could have changed hands repeatedly over centuries, traveling from Norse traders in Newfoundland to the Wabanaki tribes of Maine via intermediary groups. After all, the site where it was found, the Goddard Dig on Blue Hill Bay, was a bustling seasonal trading hub where shells, copper, and other precious items circulated freely. But here's where the plot thickens. The main penny wasn't found alone. It lay amidst thousands of other artifacts, including pottery shards and tools, all unmistakably tied to the Penobscot nation's ancestors. If it arrived through trade, why is there only one? Where are the other Norse objects, the brooches, the nails, the telltale signs of sustained contact? Skeptics argue a single coin is statistically noise, perhaps lost by a later European collector or even planted as a hoax. Yet radiocarbon dating of the site's organic materials places the coin's deposition squarely in the 1200s, centuries before Columbus and decades after the Norse abandoned Vinland. Proponents of pre-Columbian contact counter with broader evidence. The sagas mention Norse expeditions venturing south of Newfoundland into a land they called Hop, described as rich with grapes and gentle shores, traits matching coastal New England. Then there's the mysterious Newport Tower in Rhode Island, whose contested architecture some link to Norse builders, and the enigmatic runestones scattered across North America, though most have been debunked as modern forgeries. The main penny stands apart because its authenticity is undisputed, even if its journey remains shadowed in what-ifs. Perhaps the most compelling middle ground comes from indigenous oral traditions. The Mi'kmaq people of Nova Scotia tell of pale, bearded visitors arriving in great canoes, while Passamaquoddy legends speak of battles with foreign warriors clad in iron. Could these stories preserve fragmented memories of encounters with Norse explorers? Without further archaeological smoking guns, a Norse tool in situ, a DNA-linked burial, or another coin in a datable context, the main penny remains a solitary clue in a larger puzzle. What makes this artifact so captivating isn't just the question of how it traveled, but what it represents. The tantalizing possibility of moments where two worlds brushed against each other in the vast, uncharted expanse of pre-colonial America. Whether it's proof of a Viking's lost voyage or merely a testament to the incredible reach of ancient trade, the main penny whispers that history's connections might be far more intricate than our textbooks dare to suggest. Now let's shift from the contested coasts of North America to the sun-baked ruins of South America, where another discovery blurs the lines between myth and history: the elongated skulls of Paracas, Peru. Deep in the icy waters of the Baltic Sea, a sonar image captured in 2011 by a Swedish dive team ignited a firestorm of speculation: a massive, disc-shaped object resting on the ocean floor, its silhouette eerily reminiscent of the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. Stretching 200 feet across with a smooth, rounded top and strange angular formations beneath, the so-called Baltic Sea anomaly quickly became the internet's favorite extraterrestrial mystery. But is this bizarre formation proof of an ancient UFO crash, a forgotten Nazi weapon, or just a quirk of geology playing tricks on our imagination? The anomaly's most striking feature is its unnatural symmetry. Unlike the jagged, irregular shapes typical of underwater rock formations, this structure appears almost engineered, with a series of straight lines and right angles that seem to form steps or terraces leading toward its center. Divers who braved the frigid waters reported even stranger details: their equipment allegedly malfunctioned near the site, compasses spinning wildly as if affected by a powerful magnetic field. Some team members claimed to find rock samples that resembled metallic concrete, though independent analysis later identified them as common glacial deposits. Geologists have a far less sensational explanation. They argue the anomaly is likely a glacial erratic, a boulder carried and smoothed by ice age movements, possibly covered by a layer of manganese crust that gives it an artificial appearance. The Baltic Sea basin was heavily shaped by glaciers, leaving behind countless odd formations. The steps could be natural fractures or sediment layers exposed by currents. Even the supposed electromagnetic interference might be explained by local mineral deposits like pyrite, which can disrupt instruments. But here's where the plot thickens. Salvage teams and independent researchers point to features that resist easy dismissal. The object's surface reportedly bears scorch marks and what look like drag lines, as if it skidded across the seabed. Sonar scans reveal a mysterious trail leading away from the site, like a trench carved by something massive sliding to rest. And then there's the context: the Baltic Sea was a hotspot for World War II activity, littered with sunken submarines, experimental aircraft, and even rumors of Nazi wonder weapons. Could this be the wreckage of some lost prototype, a secret project buried by history? The debate rages because the anomaly straddles the line between the explicable and the uncanny. It's just almost too perfect to be natural, yet not quite man-made enough to confirm. Modern expeditions have failed to settle the question, hampered by the site's depth, low visibility, and the Baltic's notoriously corrosive salinity, which degrades metal artifacts beyond recognition. Until someone recovers irrefutable proof, a tool mark, an inscription, or a material impossible in nature, the anomaly will remain a Rorschach test for believers and skeptics alike. What makes this mystery endure isn't just the object itself, but what it represents: our fascination with the unexplored. The ocean floor is Earth's last great frontier, hiding more secrets than all our archaeological digs combined. Whether the Baltic Sea anomaly is a glacial hiccup or a relic of something stranger, it's a reminder that even in our age of satellites and submersibles, the deep still guards stories we've only begun to imagine. And sometimes the most compelling discoveries aren't about what we find, but the tantalizing questions we can't shake loose. From the Antikythera Mechanism's celestial calculations to the subterranean labyrinths of Cappadocia, these 25 discoveries don't just fill museums, they shatter the glass cases of history itself. Each artifact whispers the same unsettling truth: our timeline of human achievement might be missing entire chapters, scribbled in languages we're only beginning to decode. Think about it: a 2,000-year-old battery in Baghdad, a 12,000-year-old temple complex in Turkey, a map revealing Antarctica's hidden coastline centuries before its official discovery. These aren't just oddities, they're breadcrumbs leading us toward a radically different past, one where innovation flickered in unexpected corners before being swallowed by time. What binds these mysteries together isn't just their strangeness, but their refusal to fit neatly into the textbooks. The Voynich Manuscript mocks our linguistic prowess, while Göbekli Tepe laughs at the notion that hunter-gatherers couldn't orchestrate megalithic marvels. The Dropa stones and Ubaid lizardmen tease us with the possibility of narratives we've long dismissed as myth. Even the humble Maine penny, a single Norse coin in a Native American settlement, hints at connections our history books never penciled in. Collectively, they're not just rewriting history, they're revealing it as a living, breathing thing, full of plot twists we're still uncovering. So here's the challenge these discoveries lay at our feet: stay curious. Question the timelines, wonder what else might be buried under your hometown or lurking in plain sight like the Nazca Lines. Maybe your team ancient astronauts convinced the Dendera light bulb is proof of forgotten technology. Or perhaps you're a die-hard skeptic who thinks the Baltic Sea anomaly is just a funny-shaped rock. Either way, the conversation matters because every theory, every debate keeps the past alive. Drop your favorite mystery in the comments and tell us why it keeps you up at night. Was it the Baghdad Battery's spark of genius, the eerie precision of Sacsayhuaman stonework? Or something we didn't cover today? For those hungry to dig deeper, hit subscribe and join us as we unearth more of history's buried secrets. From lost cities swallowed by jungles to artifacts that defy physics, we're just getting started. After all, the Earth hasn't surrendered all its puzzles yet, and who knows, the next world-shaking discovery might be waiting for you to stumble upon it. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, the past is far stranger than we've been taught. The real adventure is realizing how much we still don't